We're holding another Nats Chat hangout at Walters on Wednesday, August 6th. Come join us at 5 p.m. prior to the game against the Athletics and share your early thoughts on the Mike DeBartolo era.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Gore deals. Swing a high drive left field. Wood going back to the warning track. He'll watch it go. That is long gone to the Crawford boxes. Altuve's 3-run homer makes it 4-1 Houston. That's number 18 for Altuve on a first pitch elevated changeup.
Now the set. And the pitch. Swinging a line drive hit to deep left. Down the line and gone. That one clears the Crawford boxes onto the concourse up and behind. A 2-run homer for Cooper Hummel. RBI 6 and 7. The second home run given up by Gore today. And it's now the Astros 6 and the Nationals 1.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Daikin Park in Houston. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I tell you, if the Nationals are about to trade starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore, they'll do so with him struggling. We are hours away from the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline, which is on Thursday, July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Nats on Wednesday afternoon announced a trade. They traded relievers Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin to the Los Angeles Angels for 2 prospects, but the Nats then got stomped. A 9-1 loss at the American League West, leading Houston Astros to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Window Nation. Do not miss Window Nation's biggest deal of the year. The deadline to get 50% off all window styles is Thursday, July 31st, the same day as the trade deadline. Well, the Nats go into this trade deadline in MLB's 2025 regular season with a record of 44-64, second worst record in the National League. The run differential is minus 110, second worst run differential in the NL. And the Nats, for a 5th consecutive year, are sellers regarding the trade deadline. Half of a decade of selling. Let that sink in. Mark, the game on Wednesday afternoon was a blowout. The trade, though, is unique. You think about this trade, the Nats dealt 2 in-season free agent acquisitions of the trade Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin to the Los Angeles Angels for 2 prospects in starting pitcher Jake Eder and first baseman Sam Brown. Now, the 2 prospects are not highly regarded prospects. Eder was not among the Angels' top 30 prospects for MLB Pipeline, was the Angels' number 24 prospect for Baseball America. Sam Brown, not among the Angels' top 30 prospects for MLB Pipeline or Baseball America. But something is better than nothing, and the Nats turned 2 in-season free agent acquisitions into something.
That's the key there. This is found money. This is a team that was desperately trying to patch its bullpen together after just an awful start to the season. Picked up 2 veterans, got a lot of really good work out of them to help stabilize the bullpen situation, and then managed to package them together and get 2 players in return. Now, nobody's going to come and try to say that either of these 2 prospects are likely to amount to much of anything. But we know that Andrew Chafin and Luis Garcia weren't going to be here beyond this year. So you might as well get something in return that could turn into something someday for you. So there's a lot of things the Nationals have done wrong this year, and that's why they're in this position on trade deadline day. Their midseason acquisitions of these 2 relievers, they did this the way you're supposed to do it. Now, in a perfect world, you pick them up and they help you win, and so you hang on to them for the rest of the year. But if that wasn't going to happen, and it certainly wasn't because of their performances, this is exactly what you do. I was a little surprised to see them together in one deal. That's not that common for that to happen. And an Angels team that's kind of on the fringes of the race. They're not right in the thick of this thing. Garcia has pitched for them before. Chafin has pitched a bunch of places in the past. So kudos to Mike DeBartolo for pulling that off. And even if the players in return don't ever reach the big leagues, I think under the circumstances, they handled this as well as they could with those 2. You got those out of the way prior to Wednesday's game, and now probably the bigger deals are still to come.
So Andrew Chafin was signed when Mike Rizzo was still running Nats baseball ops. Luis Garcia was signed when Mike DeBartolo had taken over as Nats interim GM. So it is worth pointing out. And I did want to note this about Garcia. He, for the Nats, 10 innings in 10 games. That's it. but he accumulated 0.4 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. That's hard to do. In 10 innings, you accumulate nearly half a win above replacement, and yet Garcia did that, and he did that in what is his age 38 season. So a salute to him. Nothing bad to say about Garcia. Chafin did a pretty good job here during his time with the Nats as well. So now we wait and we see. The Nats have a decent number of players on expiring contracts. Already have traded 3 of them in utility man Ahmed Rosario, and now the 2 relievers on Wednesday in Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin. But you think about first baseman Josh Bell. You think about infielder Paul DeJong. You think about starting pitcher Michael Soroka. You think about closer Kyle Finnegan. All to me should be traded. I mean, there's no reason to hold on to any of these guys. This to me is like a going out of business sale. Something is better than nothing. Just get anything you can for these guys. There could be massive change coming for this team, for this roster this offseason. We don't know who's going to be running baseball ops. You know, we've talked about Alex Call. He's an interesting one, right? The Nats do have a decent number of good young outfielders. Call has had a good season in part-time duty. You mentioned the other day the extent to which he's under team control. It is an odd deal with Cole. This is his age 30 season. He's under team control through the 2029 season. So that perhaps could generate some interest in Cole. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see if Cole is part of the players who the Nats end up dealing prior to the deadline.
I'm looking at a few names that haven't gotten a whole lot of attention here, who are not the one-year guys, do have control beyond this, but for one reason or another may not fit into the long-term plan. I think Cole very much is on that list. And again, are you going to get a lot in return for him? I don't know about that, but you can't tell me that based on what we've seen, that other teams wouldn't view him as a valuable 4th or 5th outfielder who can play good defense, run the bases well, and give you a good quality at bat most of the time. So I think he would be on the list of possibilities. I'd also be curious if they get calls on Jacob Young. And the thinking there is this. Dylan Cruz is about to come back, and he's going to play every day. We already know James Wood's in the lineup every day. That's 2 spots. There's always been this thought that Dylan Cruz could be a center fielder, and that may be his best position. And if you want to find a way to get him back in there, put him in center field, and not have to send Dalen Lyle down, and maybe eventually call up Robert Hassel as well, would you consider moving Jacob Young, who is an excellent defender, has gotten better at the plate, but still we know that he's very limited in what he can do? Would you be interested in that if an offer came about for you? And would he have value to another team who's looking for a good quality defensive center fielder? I don't know anything personally. That's just a name that I've been thinking about here in the last couple of days. It wouldn't shock me if one of those 2 outfielders was traded, because they do have a log jam there, especially with Cruz coming back. And the other name who falls in that category, we've already talked about Nathaniel Lowe, so we don't have to go through that again. I'd be curious about Luis Garcia Jr., the other Luis Garcia, who has now been here for parts of 5 seasons. He is one of their better offensive players on a lineup that hasn't been very good. We know the defensive shortcomings. Does he fit into Mike DiBartolo's long-term plan or not? Does he fit into his 2026 plan or not? And if not, would any other teams be interested in him, mostly for his bat? You know, defensively, it's going to be a struggle. So again, I'm not saying that the people are knocking down the doors for any of them, but if you're Mike DiBartolo in this situation, you have to at least explore the possibilities and be open to the possibilities for anyone who you don't necessarily see as a part of the long-term future here.
Well, and this is a showcase opportunity for DiBartolo. This is an opportunity for him to show what he can be as a head of baseball ops, to show what he can do going into the stressful time and the busy time of a trade deadline. So I would think DiBartolo, if anything, is going to be leaning toward making a bunch of deals. And first of all, that's in the best interest of the ball club. But second of all, that's in the best interest of Mike DiBartolo. Make a bunch of deals, try to impress people with what you're doing, and maybe hopefully get that interim tag removed. You know, it's interesting with Jacob Young. The offense isn't good, but the defense is great. And this team is so bad defensively, you shiver at the thought of, if you take arguably your best defender off the team, what are we looking at with this team defensively moving forward? Now, Dylan Cruz could be really good defensively. We don't know. But Jacob Young, we do know this is a 2nd consecutive season in which he's rating very well defensively. Like last season, you could say, is he really that good? No, he is really that good. Like we're seeing that for a 2nd consecutive season, him excel when it comes to the defensive metrics. As for another Nats player who has come up a bit regarding whether he should be traded, their ace, MacKenzie Gore. So he pitched on Wednesday afternoon, and he was not good. Gore allowed 6 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs and 6 singles. He issued just 1 walk, but he also issued a hit by pitch and 3 wild pitches. He recorded 4 strikeouts, did throw a lot of strikes, 97 pitches, 64 strikes, just 33 balls. But the 2 home runs were killers. Gore in the bottom of the second gave up a 2-out first pitch, 3-run homer by Jose Altuve to left field for a 4-1 Astros lead. And Gore in the bottom of the 6th gave up a 1-out full count, 2-run homer by Cooper Hummel to left field for a 6-1 Astros lead. And that was it. Gore then got pulled from the game. And this was the 3rd consecutive start in which Gore was off to some degree. The 8-1 loss to the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park on July 20th, Gore allowed 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings. The 1-0 loss at the Minnesota Twins this past Friday night, July 25th, Gore did allow 1 run in 5 innings, but he issued a whopping 6 walks and 2 wild pitches. And it's an odd deal here. Since he pitched in the All-Star game, in which he pitched well, a perfect top of the 5th on 9 pitches, he has not pitched well, and his ERA now is approaching 4. This is not what we want with MacKenzie Gore. His ERA now is up to 3.80.
This has been unquestionably the worst stretch of his season that had, to this point, had been so good and so consistently good. And we talked how many times after his starts about how the big step up for him was this ability to, even if he wasn't at his best, to still come away with good results. And that has not happened here in 2 of the last 3. The last start, yes, 6 walks and managed to limit it to 1 run. That was an example of him fighting through it and getting the job done. This was not that. Now, I thought it was interesting. He actually said he felt like he pitched better this time than in those previous ones. He was happier with the quality of his pitches. This really boils down to Jose Altuve just owning him in this game. Ambush first pitch single to start the game. Ambush 3-run homer in the 2nd inning. And then Cooper Hummel on his final pitch of the game in the 6th inning, 2-run homer. That's basically everything that Gore gave up on those couple of big swings. And he felt like he was better outside of that. Now, you look at it, he only had 1 clean inning. So let's not try to make it out to be like he was cruising otherwise. But he did feel like it was a step forward. And, when we asked him about the trade speculation, he says, of course, he knows he'd be lying if he said he hadn't realized it, know what's going on. But quite frankly, he said, I've been trying really hard right now to pitch better because I know I'm not at my best right now. And that's helped him keep his mind off it. Now, do the two have anything to do with each other? Does the trade speculation lead to him struggling? I'm going to say no. I don't think that's the kind of pitcher that he is. But boy, what a strange time for this to all of a sudden happen to a guy who was so consistently good in the first half. And now 3 starts in a row has been much less than the best version of himself.
And you do wonder if the struggles at all have spooked some teams when it comes to offering the sky-high asking price that the Nats supposedly are asking for when it comes to MacKenzie Gore. Not that these teams all of a sudden think that he's a bad pitcher, but, if he's in a bad place and you're getting him for the purpose of a pennant race, well, you don't want a pitcher who's in a bad place. Now, in recent years, we have seen Nats starting pitchers who ended up having good seasons go through struggles. We saw this with Josiah Gray 2 years ago. We saw this with MacKenzie Gore last season. So he is more than capable of coming out of this, but it does stand out that he lately has not been himself. We've talked about the strikeouts having slowed down. We have seen walks. We in this game saw home runs, so he has not been at his best. How'd you like Miguel Cairo getting tossed for the first time as Nats interim manager?
Oh, yes. So you did see motion first from MacKenzie Gore. After that home run that he gave up, he had words for Ryan Additon, the home plate umpire. He was talking about the pitch previous to the home run, a borderline pitch. It could have gone either way. It wasn't egregiously bad, but he was upset about it. And then Cairo, who didn't say anything on his way out to the mound and taking the ball from Gore, once he finished and handed the ball to Cole Henry, he had words for Additon on the way back to the dugout and got the old heave-ho. And as he said, I want to show that I stand up for my players. It was as simple as that.
I got to support my pitcher. I got my players back, and the pitch was close, and I just let him know that it was close. Just if you're gonna be consistent both ways.
I don't know that he really knew whether it was a bad call or not, but he felt like my ace is upset. I better show something for him, and so here we are on July 30th, 2025. And the manager of the Washington Nationals for the rest of this game was Henry Blanco, and the bench coach was Bob Henley, who wasn't even on the big league staff and hadn't been on the big league staff in several years. Strange times indeed.
Yeah, for sure. I would say this. Miguel Cairo seems as interim gets. I want to see him get tossed as often as he likes the rest of the way. He has nothing to lose. He should have fun with this the rest of the way. Stand up for every Nats player as often as you like. Get yourself tossed. Give us some theater here over the final 2 months of the Nats season. Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. The dog days of August are right around the corner. The humidity is rather thick. You've got the AC running on blast, the fans on, and the shades closed, but the heat still seems to be seeping into your home. That is, until you replace your old, drafty windows with energy-efficient, top-quality windows from Window Nation. And right now, you can get 50% off all window styles plus 0 interest for 5 years. You heard that right. With Window Nation, you won't pay any interest until 2030. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Also, know this, Window Nation will get the job done in a day or less. Window Nation's installation crews have over a decade of experience, so you can feel comfortable knowing that your windows are installed right the first time. Don't procrastinate another day. Save yourself another month of living in discomfort. Don't miss Window Nation's biggest deal of the year, 50% off all window styles now through July 31st. And remember, that comes with 0 interest until 2030. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Summer's here, and it's time to bring the heat in a new Honda. Check out the Civic, Accord, or HR-V during the Honda Summer Event. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 4.99% APR on a 2025 Civic or 2026 HR-V, or a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Accord.
See dealer for financing details. Exclude Civic Si and Type R.
There go the runners, the 3-2 pitch. Fastball grounded right side, a two-hopper fielded by Altuve. He'll flip on to first, and the Astros win it 9-1. This one was all Houston. They hit 3 home runs, and they take the series 2-1 over the Nationals. With 26 hours to go until the trade deadline, we'll see what the Nationals look like on Friday when they open the series against the Brewers.
So the Nats offense in this 9-1 loss at the Astros on Wednesday afternoon, not good. 1 run, just 5 hits, all of which were singles, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did work 4 walks, but Astros starting pitcher Ryan Gusto allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. Ryan Gusto, he came into this game with an ERA of 5.18 over 23 games, including 13 starts. Yet another instance of the Nats inexplicably getting worked by a starting pitcher not having a good season. When it comes to the trade chips, Josh Bell did get on base 3 times. He is the Nats starting DH and cleanup batter, went 2 for 3 with 2 infield singles and a walk. Bell for this month of July now, an OPS of 929. Paul DeJong, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 6 batter, 0 for 3 with a walk. He committed a throwing error. But I do like that if this was Josh Bell's final game with the Nats, he had not 1 but 2 infield singles. That's pretty cool.
2 infield singles, went first to third on a base hit to center, and scored on a sac fly. It was not a guaranteed scoring situation. Like, he had to bust it, and there was a little bit of hesitation of, is it going to be a good throw or not to get him? So, yeah, good on him. After all his base running issues earlier this summer, he did come through for them in that spot. Add Ryan Gusto to the list. There have been way too many of them this year and the past few years of these guys who, for whatever reason, do a lot better against the Nationals than very often top opposing pitchers do. James Wood continues to struggle at the plate. He had a base hit, but struck out a couple more times, grounded into a double play. Not a lot going on offensively. And in Josh Bell's case, I give him a lot of credit. He's been in a very difficult spot now. It's the 4th year in a row that he finds himself potentially, maybe even likely, being traded at the deadline. And he always has the right things to say. He spoke lovingly about the Nationals. He's played for a lot of teams now in his career, and he said undoubtedly the Nationals are his favorite. He's had the best time with them, both because of the team and the city. He really does like it here. He would love to stay here long term, but he understands why that hasn't been possible. We'll see what happens with him the next 24 hours. If he does go, another fond farewell to Josh Bell, who I know he didn't do everything that they hoped he could do for them this year, but he has been a model citizen and really a pleasure to deal with. And I know a lot of fans have felt the same way about him.
You know, one thing that stood out in watching this game and seeing the Nats struggle again offensively is that the home run really has dried up. And we're just not seeing the Nats homer like we were seeing the team homer earlier in the year. And you see the Astros really take over this game via the home run. And lately with the Nats, there just have not been many. When it comes to the homer, the Nats, for a good chunk of this season, were like middle of the pack in MLB. The Nats, as we're recording this, are tied for 23rd out of 30 major league teams in home runs now. So the home run has dried up. You know, if we get the trades that we're anticipating, that would seem to zap the Nats of even some more power. Although if James Wood gets going again and Dylan Cruz gets going, and by the way, Brady House gets going, we have not talked much about him. He has not been performing particularly well. Maybe the home runs pick up, but that is just such a big thing. And big picture, that is such a need for this team, more offensive firepower. And perhaps it comes from within. Hopefully it does via Wood and Cruz and House, etc. But this still is a need for the Nats, the need for more power, the need for more home runs. It's one thing to hit some homers in April and May, but as the season goes on, you know, are you continuing to hit bombs? And this team just has not kept that up as this season has gone on.
Well, and remember, I feel like several times early in the year, we talked about how their ability to hit for power, their home runs, was making up for their other offensive deficiencies, and how that can do a lot for you when you don't necessarily draw walks and don't necessarily come through with runners in scoring position. If you can score runs in bunches because of one big swing, it can mask a lot of your other issues offensively. And now what you're seeing, the home runs, as you said, have dried out. And what's left is a lineup that still has those same deficiencies. Not patient on a regular basis, not delivering in, big spots, not always getting production from the bottom half of the lineup, relying too much on a handful of guys at the top. And by the way, one of the guys at the top, James Wood, is not performing anywhere close to what he was for the first half of the year. And so it does really expose what they are. We'll see, as you said, what are they going to look like come Friday? I don't know that all three guys are going to be gone by then, but you're talking Josh Bell, Nathaniel Lowe, Luis Garcia. Certainly one of those three is a decent chance, and maybe even two of those three that could be gone by then. That's your 3, 4, 5 hitters on a regular basis. What's this lineup going to look like without some of that?
And if you're talking home runs by Nats players this season, that's 3 of the top 5 guys in homers for the Nats. Wood is 1 at 24, Lowe is 2nd, 15, CJ Abrams 3rd, 14, Josh Bell 4th, 13, and Luis Garcia Jr. is 5th with 9.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Are you ready to get spicy?
These Doritos Golden Sriracha aren't that spicy.
Sriracha? Sounds pretty spicy to me.
A little spicy, but also tangy and sweet.
Maybe it's time to turn up the heat.
Or turn it down. It's time for something that's not too spicy. Try Doritos Golden Sriracha.
Spicy.
But not too spicy.
Swinging a drive to deep left by Diaz. This is way back. Going, and gone. Goodbye. Eder Diaz breaks this one wide open with his 15th home run of the year. On a first pitch cutter belt tie, he blasts it over the Crawford boxes in left field for his 15th home run. And the Astros have played in 5 runs here in the inning. It's now Houston 9 and Washington 1.
The Nats bullpen in this 9-1 loss at the Astros on Wednesday afternoon. So 3 Nats relievers got used in this game. 2 were good. The first was not. Cole Henry allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He in the bottom of the 6th faced 5 batters, but got just 2 outs. He gave up a 2-out first pitch, 3-run homer by Yainer Diaz to left field for a 9-1 Astros lead. But Connor Pilkington, another good outing. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th with 2 strikeouts. And Zach Brixey is back. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. The Nats on Thursday afternoon announced having recalled Brixey from AAA Rochester. I was thinking about this during the game. Pilkington now is what Henry was a few weeks ago, right? A young reliever just called up, doing well. Henry just cannot find it these days, though. He really has fallen off. Hopefully that doesn't happen with Pilkington. He's been really impressive, but it's a real shame what's going on here with Cole Henry, because we had thought of him as someone who can maybe be a bright spot as the season goes on. You talked about him as potentially succeeding Kyle Finnegan as the Nats closer if Finnegan gets dealt. But Henry, for a while here now, just has not been doing well.
No, I wonder how much of it is a young guy who had been a starter his whole life, dealt with injuries, dealing with the workload of a reliever in the big leagues. You've got to pitch a lot. He was great there for a couple of months, but is that kind of catching up to him now? And he really is a 2-pitch guy who has tremendous movement on both his fastball and his breaking ball, but maybe too much so, and can't consistently throw strikes. And once teams see that curveball, especially, if you see it coming and you're not confident it's going to be over the strike zone, let it go. And I think he's fallen into a lot of deep counts, issued a lot of walks, and that pitch isn't the wipeout pitch that it was from earlier on. He's going to have to learn how to adjust if he's going to make it long-term for them as a reliever. He's got to figure out how to get through that kind of thing and pitch better and deal with the workload. But yeah, for a guy who was like their 7th, 8th inning reliever in May and early June, he's now like the 5th inning guy very frequently and not even performing all that great in those spots.
So, no game for the Nats on Thursday. What is MLB Trade Deadline Day? The deadline at 6 p.m. Eastern. Interim GM Mike DeBartolo will be speaking to reporters after the deadline. And we shall see. I mean, the opportunity is here for the Nats to make a bunch of trades. I would think a bunch of trades are coming. You never can be certain of that. But like we've said, there's no reason for there not to be a bunch of trades. Put aside the MacKenzie Gore thing. Just focus on the guys on expiring contracts. There's every reason for these guys to be dealt. If there is any kind of a market for these guys, I would think we are in store for maybe a high volume trade day come Thursday. We'll see.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot going on. And the fact that they've already traded 3 of the guys here in the days leading up to it almost says to me that he does anticipate a lot on Thursday, because you can't do them all in one day. So you just try to get the first few ones out of the way, knowing you're going to have a lot to do on Thursday. I'll make my bold prediction here, and that's the following. I will predict that they don't trade at least one of the expiring contract players, not because there's not interest in doing it, but maybe just don't get really much of any kind of offer for them. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the case, and maybe teams out there don't view Paul DeYoung or Josh Bell the way that the Nats would hope they would. So I'm going to predict that one of them doesn't get traded, and I will predict that at least one of the players with multiple years of club control left does get traded, potentially more than one, but I think at least one player from that group, not necessarily Gore. I think one of the players with several years of control does get moved in addition to all but one of the players who are on expiring contracts.
I think the magic number is 4. I think we get 4 more trades by the Nats to up the number to 6 in what will be the most trades made by the Nats in the lead up to a deadline since 2021. I don't know that anything will ever top 2021. It would be hard to top 2021 in terms of volume. But, it's funny. You look at the last few years, 22, 23, 24, as much as the Nats have been sellers, they actually haven't made that many actual trades. And there have been years, and we've talked about it, where we've been kind of underwhelmed by the number of trades. Now, of course, there was the big trade in 2022, the Juan Soto trade, but they actually haven't made as many trades as you might think. I think this is set to be number 2 in terms of volume of trades. 2021, number 1, 2025, number 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's just more players who fall into that category this year. Maybe not the big names they've had in the past when you had obviously a Juan Soto and a Josh Bell, but when you had even last year a Lane Thomas and a Hunter Harvey, players who had more than 1 year of control and brought back some things of value. They may not get as much in return this year as they've gotten in the past, but I think there are more players who fit that description. And I think come 6 p.m. on Thursday, we're going to have a much better idea of what Mike DeBartolo really thought of this roster and what he thinks about the future for this organization. I'll be very interested to hear what he has to say when the dust settles and what's left and what he hopes to now accomplish moving forward.
And speaking of what's left, oh, by the way, the Nats' next series is a series against the best team in the majors. You think about a depleted Nats team facing the mighty Brewers and what could take place at Nationals Park this weekend. But next up for the Nats is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against MLB leading Milwaukee. Game 1 Friday evening, 6:45. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday afternoon, 4:05. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. And Game 3 Sunday afternoon, 1:35, Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Window Nation. Do not miss Window Nation's biggest deal of the year. The deadline to get 50% off all window styles is Thursday, the same day as the deadline. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We will be back with you for a special non-game day installment of Nats Chat. So a show will be out for Thursday night/Friday morning. So be on the lookout for that as we will discuss whatever the Nats do and or do not do regarding the trade deadline. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast. And we leave you now with this update on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, with the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel.
And now the righty's 1-0 pitch. Hassel swings, hits a high fly ball to center. This is carrying well. Clase back to the fence. It's out of here. Hassel again tomahawks a high fastball and belts it out of here. The Red Wings take a 2-1 lead. 8th home run for Robert Hassel. All right, time for a Red Wings update. And the Red Wings started a 2-week road trip in Charlotte on Tuesday with a blowout victory over the Knights. Andrew Alvarez earned his first win of the 2025 season, working 6 shutout innings, gave up 2 hits, no walks, struck out 7. Nobody got into scoring position against him. Alvarez, even though that was his first win, could certainly have a lot more victories on the season, and over his last 8 starts, a combined ERA of 3.30. Staying on the pitching front, Cade Cavalli's last start came on Friday, a loss to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and a very unusual start for Cavalli. He went 6 innings, allowed 4 runs on 10 hits, but did not walk anybody and struck out 7. He threw 86 pitches, 64 of them were strikes on Friday. On hitting side, a lot of guys are hot right now. Robert Hassel, the third, since getting optioned from the Nationals, is hitting .331 with 6 homers and a .941 OPS. His .307 batting average overall right now ranks 10th in the International League. Andres Chaparro has homered in 3 straight games and has now blasted 10 home runs in the 32 games he's played for the Red Wings this season. Trey Lipscomb had 2 homers and drove in 5 runs on Tuesday. Over his last 8 games, Lipscomb has 2 doubles and 4 home runs. Yo-Yo Morales continues to swing the bat well after a slow start in AAA. He has an 8-game hitting streak at the moment, during which time he's hitting .297 with a homer and 10 runs batted in. In 21 games in the month of July, Morales is hitting .307 with 6 home runs and 25 batted in. And former Rays first-round pick Nick Schnell stays hot. Over his last 6 games, he is 12 for 26 with 2 doubles, a triple, and 3 home runs. He has 9 home runs alone in the month of July. And since he got promoted from AA Harrisburg on May 24th, he has 14 home runs. That's tied for second most in the league. His 41 RBIs are second most in the IL. And his slugging percentage of .608 ranks 5th in the International League. He also has 9 triples overall this year between AA and AAA. That is the 3rd most 3-base hits in all of minor league baseball. This is Josh Whetzel with this Rochester Red Wings update. Infield playing him to pull to the right by a couple of steps. The delivery rammed the other way to deep left field. Rodin's going back, looking up. This is out of here. Schnell goes the other way for a solo shot on an 0-2 pitch, and the Red Wings have taken a 3-2 lead. Home run number 8 for Schnell.
Are you ready to get spicy?
These Doritos Golden Sriracha aren't that spicy.
Maybe it's time to turn up the heat.
Or turn it down. It's time for something that's not too spicy. Try Doritos Golden Sriracha.
Spicy.
But not too spicy.